city governments, county governments, state governments, and especially the federal governments are telling us who we are, what we can have, what we can eat, what we can drink, what we can... what about our Creator given rights?
God-given rights.
Yeah, what happened to him? I mean, and the 14th Amendment, another thing that it says that deprive any person of life, liberty, or property. Oh, forget that one. Enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens. I don't have privileges and immunities. Do you know what that is?
It's something they seem to be able to bombard their way through.
No, it's like a licenses.
Yes.
A license is a permission to do that which would otherwise be illegal. So I don't need a license for anything because I have my Creator-given rights. Remember the Declaration of Independence, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, the ownership of property, and a government that will keep me from violence, protect me and my property. If I apply for a license, let's say I want a driver license. If I apply for a license, why would I? I mean, let's figure that out. Why would I?
Yeah.
So I take my right, my God-given right to get in my car and drive, I take that right and I trade it for a privilege or immunity. And they'll say, driving is a privilege. Well, if you got a license, yeah, driving is definitely a privilege. And when you have a privilege, it can be controlled by the entity to which you applied for the privilege and immunity. So that's a very, very nasty phrase in here, the privileges and immunities, because we don't have privileges and immunities. Abridge the privileges and immunities of the citizens of the United States. Is that you? Are you a man and woman or woman? Are you a state inhabitant? Are you a citizen of the United States who is dependent on their privileges and immunities to an onerous government? Or are you independent? Do you want freedom? This crazy what has happened to our world, our society, and our way of life.
Yeah, I'm still boggled about this fact, or maybe we'll run our own ride-sharing program, which is so odd because, they make these what they're called state laws, municipal laws, which are really ordinances. They don't have the right to call it laws because they're not laws.
Codes, ordinances.
And so now they think they can do it even without the state government saying. I mean, where do they get the authority for doing these things that they always think they have the right to do?
Well, I remember they would give up their quest to take the driver's fingerprints. What does it do, fingerprinting?
Put you in a federal system that presumes guilt.
Oh well, I've had brokers' licenses. There you go. And I was an insurance agent. I had an insurance license, privilege to sell whatever,
Medical license.
Once upon a time, medical license, and I had to give fingerprint checks. I mean, I had to give my fingerprints all the time in order to get those things. So they wanted the city to do the fingerprinting, or they wanted 1% of the gross of the ride-sharing companies, which, do you really think it would cost millions and millions and millions of dollars to do these fingerprint checks? I mean, hello. So it was extortion. It was nothing but extortion, and that's what governments do. And now I was thinking on the way over here, how many governments do we have? We have a federal government, we have a state government, we have county government, we have city government, and more than that, we have other things. We have those entities that are taxing entities.
Educational collectives.
We have independent school systems.
Yes.
That's a government all its own. We have medical systems. Those they get taxes, so they're. And you see, you and I get to pay to run that government, to pay the people in that government, and to give pensions to the people in that government. And that's what it's all about. It's about being in the government and making all that money and having all that stroke and getting a pension. And why people can't cop to that, I have absolutely no idea. But that's where we are in the world today.
I'm so glad you're listening to this. I hope you're taking it in.
Well, the thing about it is what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? Are you going to continue to go ahead and say that's okay, that's the way the world is, I'm okay? Your children, your grandchildren have nothing. Nothing. They know that. You take this 85 million called millennials. They know, I mean, they may have been coddled. They call them the what did I tell you? They call them the
Entitled.
entitled. They call them the entitled. People speak harshly about the millennials. I was talking to somebody today, and she said, well, I have a friend who says that her daughter truly is entitled, but it's her own fault. She's given her everything all her life. Well, there's going to come a time when these entitled, they're entitled by their families, don't get what they're going to have to make their own way, and it's going to be a terrible, terrible shock for them. But they get matriculated into this place where they don't have a chance. They don't, well, I guess if they get given things, they can go ahead and go on welfare or do Section 8 housing. I have no idea where they're going to go. I don't think they will, because I think they're a different breed. I really have hope.
Yes, and even though we're saying, they're going to have problems like that, we're really focusing this a lot on the millennials. So we really probably should be saying you instead of they, because, we've all got that problems, and we all have. And from not stepping up and saying, hey, you don't have the right to do this to us, it's just gotten worse and worse. So there has to come a time when we say, no, enough's enough.
Well, not all the millennials are into, like, my thing is, I want to do away with the IRS. And because, what is it? I don't even know what the IRS is, except it's somebody that comes and takes your stuff. And, like, there's a 1040 tax return. What are you returning? Unless you were paid by the federal government or some government, you have nothing to return. They're taken from you. You're giving it to them. You're signing off your agreement that you will give it to them. It's wrong. It's just totally, totally wrong. But that's how they do it. And people, the older people even considerably younger than I am, well, I have to do it. They have no idea why they fill out a tax return, except I have to do it. They'll come and get me. They'll put me in jail. Well, here's the other side of that story. I'm really big on not confessing. Confession is one of the devil's tools, as far as I'm concerned. And as when somebody in power, and remember, we are all equal. The Declaration of Independence says we are all equal. That means we all have equal authority. So when somebody comes and lords it over you with a badge or a gun or whatever and says, I have authority over you, don't believe it. You're the one with the authority. You have just as much authority to live your life as that guy does to try to take it from you. And most times it's taken by acquiescence or consent. So if you consent to give him your stuff, then you're ignorant. I mean, that's all I can say. You're ignorant. You don't know any better. You don't know what to do about it, but you think that you need to. You don't need to give anybody your stuff. Nobody. It's you. Develop your own independence. Make your own way. Keep your own stuff. You got to keep your own stuff instead of allowing somebody to take it from you or giving it to somebody else because you think they're entitled to it. It's a nowhere. It's a one-way street to nowhere. It's not good, and people have been programmed into believing I need to fill up my tax return. I'm given a day, April 15th. I've got to do it by April 15th. This is just arbitrary, pulled for the ear by somebody who we don't even know who. There is no district director. There is no commissioner. I mean, all this stuff, it's gone away over the years. Treasury orders have done away with the offices of the IRS. Yet there's an office near you. How is that when their guidelines, their treasury orders, the things that apply to them say no more offices outside Washington, D.C. Yet they don't shudder. Why? Because people don't know. And I implore you to please get to the bottom of it. You have no excuse anymore, the young ones, the millennials.